Hi, good morning. Welcome to another ConeX and New Way Growth collaboration on these LinkedIn Lives. And we have two cracking ladies in Angela and Ruth, and we are discussing bridging the gap between manufacturing and educational institutions for mutual success. So I'm going to hand over to Sam to kick off this discussion. Sam, over to you.
Thank you very much. This is a topic that has been discussed on many events online, in person, over the last however many years. And I know I've known Angela for some time, and I know she's been doing some brilliant work off the back of these discussions. And that's obviously what we're looking to achieve with ConeX. It's finding opportunities. It's collaborating, it's working out what we can do to support the manufacturing sector and ultimately make a difference, rather than just go around in circles on these events and say there's a problem but not do anything about it. So here we are, hopefully going to be doing something about it. So we run these events once a month, different topic every month. You will see a little comment box underneath the LinkedIn Live, so please feel free to ask any questions as we go, and we'll make sure we put them to Angela and Ruth. Obviously, if you've got any questions for myself and Adam as well, we can jump on those. The idea here is obviously to introduce the topic that we're going to be focusing on this month and kind of showcase the manufacturing sector a little bit better, talk about some of these opportunities, and ultimately try and help as many people as we can. At the end of these sessions, we then run a bit more of a deep dive into with a mastermind session for our members. So obviously for any ConeX members that are listening along, then that is on Friday this week. And we'll be doing a bit more of a deep dive and some breakout rooms and actually going through some of these opportunities and ideas that we're going to be discussing today. Any of you that are not ConeX members that are listening, then feel free to drop me a message and we can have a bit of a chat. So I'm going to allow Ruth and Angela to introduce yourselves to start with, and then I've got a few questions for you. So who wants to start? Quick introduction.
Ruth.
Okay, Ruth.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ruth Forster. I'm the founding director of Wagstaff Recruitment and Careers Coaching. We are a global recruitment business within engineering and manufacturing, and support on the education side as well.
Brilliant. And Angela?
Morning, I'm Angela Lawler. I set up Marvellous Manufacturing to try and bridge the gap between education and manufacturers. Having conversations with manufacturers who are talking about we're not getting enough young people come through. And then I talk to careers advisors who say we don't talk about manufacturing in schools because we don't know anything about it. So that's the whole point of Marvellous Manufacturing, is to be that bridge to help you, the manufacturers, get into schools. And I'd like to just finish by, well, obviously not finish, but finish this bit by saying I was asked to go and speak at an event for an association a couple of weeks ago for the Shapper event. And I like to try and have a look at what they've talked about previously. And one of the things that struck a chord with me was a message put out by their chairman, Mike Bradley. And what he actually said was, we've often talked about it, but failed to make any progress. And I thought those were quite poignant words.
Absolutely. I mean, this is part of the problem. A lot of events we've attended over the last year or so, even if the topic isn't around this, seems to divert into this skills gap, younger people, how can we get them engaged in manufacturing? And it's just a recurring topic that no one wants to stand up and say, right, let's actually do something. Instead, it's, we've got a big problem coming up. We've got this skills gap. We're not encouraging enough people into manufacturing. No one knows about manufacturing. Let's do something about it then. And credit to yourself. That's exactly where you've stepped in to help and support, which kind of leads quite nicely into that first question, really. So I asked this at the end of our member kind of networking session that we did last week as well. And Adam, feel free to jump in with your comments on this as well. Why do you think companies find it so hard or put it to the back of the list in terms of engaging with schools, universities, local colleges, whatever it may be? Why don't more people do it? Why isn't it priority?
So what sort of feedback did you get to that question, Sam? I'd be interested to know that.
We got a bit of a mix. A lot of it came down to awareness, not a lot of short-term thinking. Ultimately, there's a project in the door. We've got to get that finished. Let's send it out, and that's very much solve the problem that's right there in front of them, rather than finding the time to move this forward. Have we lost Angela? She's disappeared on my screen.
I've got a swirly as well.
Okay, well, we will carry on, and I'm sure she will reappear shortly. Adam, what were your thoughts on this? Why do these companies not put it as their priority, do you think?
Well, I think that okay, my view. So if manufacturers, we tend to be in our four walls manufacturing, and we get other priorities that crop up. So the tendency is, as with anything, as with any business, probably as we go, is we tend to attack something when it raises its head. We're not strategically looking at it, that long-term view or that long-term fix. So when there's a need arises, we'll attack it. And that might be one of the cases that happens when we're looking from a younger generation point of view.
Hello.
Whereas this one really takes a long-term strategy and a continuous working and promoting of what the business is doing as a manufacturer, what you were doing, how you attract in. I know me and Ruth are going to be covering some of this stuff in a webinar tomorrow, around it. So I think that there are a number of different things, but the thing for me is if you're a business and you're looking, your business is going to thrive from having younger generation and bringing the younger generation through. That's what you want. So it should be a priority. It should be on your strategy. So therefore, we should be making time to work on attracting those younger talent in. And one of those ones is working with the education. Now, that comes onto the side of the education side for me as well. And I will shut up in a minute, is that also you've got to have a progressive sort of education system within this as well. So I do know that I've heard recently that, manufacturers have approached schools and schools said, no, we don't have any engineering qualifications or engineering things. I think you might have said that. You come across that. Yeah. And I've certainly come across that. So there is some work to do because the thing around that, which I think this is what you said, Sam, and I don't want to put words into your mouth. You said, well, hang on, you're a school. You teach STEM subjects, which is engineering, manufacturing, and science side. So what do you want about that you don't? So, so there's certainly a gap that we have to bridge.
It's a perception and awareness thing, isn't it? Yes, you may not teach directly engineering. Yes, you may not support engineering within the school, but there's a lot more roles in an engineering company than just operating a machine. And that's the bit that I think people miss out on that sometimes. I'm going to go over to Ruth to allow Ruth to add your comments into this. And then Angela, are you back with us?
I am. Sorry, my internet disappeared. Sorry.
No worries. So Ruth, what are your thoughts on this?
I'd echo what Adam said around the long-term strategic view. And it's a long-term strategic view within education and also business and government. So those three need to be aligned. So if you need to be looking long-term ahead, 5 to 10 years, where your business needs to go, where your students are aiming to go, and as a government, what you think your education strategy should be. And again, echoing what Adam said, the challenge within business is we have to be commercially strong to deal with the day-to-day issues, to make sure our businesses are strong to cope with today, this month, this financial year. And sometimes things get dropped, but that's why we're in a little bit of the pickle that we're in at the moment. I suppose I would always say that, you know, when you're as a manufacturer, if you're constantly thinking about your innovation and what you're doing in the background to drive your business forward for future success and continued success, there is an ongoing momentum and an ongoing process for you to drive your business forward, and to tag on what you can do within your own community with your own brand to promote what's happening within your organization should be part of your strategic vision as an organization. There is always going to be barriers. There's barriers to markets as you're growing your own organization and your own business and your own products. So there will always be barriers. It's finding the things that work for you as an organization. And there are quick hits out there that you can do. And what I mean by a quick hit is there's some simple things you can do that you can then build into your strategy that can be continuous. And for me, it's about process.
I think you just hit on something there. There are these quick wins. There's almost low-hanging fruit. I think we're going to talk about some of that on Friday in the brainstorming session, just to actually get people making some of these quick changes that then suddenly puts them in a different kind of perspective to schools and colleges. I completely agree with what you were saying, Adam, that it is a two-sided argument, and the schools do have to be willing to engage as well. But there's definitely this kind of short-term versus long-term thing that you've been saying there. I will go back to Angela. I have a kind of separate question that's come off the back of that. And this is kind of related to the work that you're doing. And are you now seeing more people open to engage? But ultimately, we've had a pretty terrible few years, let's be honest. There's been a lot going on. There's been a lot of kind of unknowns popping up here, there, and everywhere. And I know, Adam, we've even spoken about it on previous events, and we've had these discussions around people should now be looking, their short terms are the 2-3 months rather than the year planning and, looking, very short term, because everything is a little bit unsecure and no one quite knows what's going to happen next. Has that put people off in terms of schools engagement? Are they now looking, right, we're in lockdown for these 2 months. We need to just focus on getting out of these 2 months. Oh, there's a war going on there. We need to focus on this supply chain issue and these sorts of things. Has that now, because everything is so uncertain, has that even pushed this discussion even further? And now we're not out the back of any of that by any means, but there is more awareness of these kind of short-term things and the fact that it is very unstable and unsecure. Are people now thinking, okay, there is long-term kind of positions that we need to be putting our business in? And have you seen a bit of a switch, Angela, in terms of, yes, the last few years have been crazy, but now they're not stable, but now things are a little bit better?
Yeah,
are people now thinking a bit more long-term?
I think that people are now in a better position to start thinking about wanting to engage with schools. I think we are putting lockdown behind us. The war in Ukraine has quietened down a bit. All the uproar about rising energy bills, that seems to have gone a little bit quieter as well. So I think we are becoming a little more settled. That's from my point of view. I could be wrong, but that's what I've seen, definitely, And I think sort of going back to what Ruth was saying, and it was one of the things that I was going to touch on today, is that when people talk about engaging with schools, I think they think of it as a big brick wall in front of them, because they're not quite sure how to get over it. It's going to take up a huge amount of our time. We don't know how to do it, And again, you need to put it into little bite-sized chunks, because it doesn't need to be that big thing in your life that takes up so much room. A lot of manufacturers still continue with their marketing, and I liken engaging with schools and attracting young people to marketing, because when you're marketing your business, you're going out there, you're looking for clients, you're looking for new clients, you're looking for ways to engage those new clients. It's the same with engaging young people, exactly the same. So if you're putting aside, for example, an hour a month to work on your marketing, why can't you also put an hour a month aside to do some schools engagement? Because that's all it would take. So it doesn't have to be this big thing. It doesn't have to. I know businesses are really, they have a lot going on, they have a lot to think about. But if you're creating a 5-year strategy for your business on how you're going to grow your business, why aren't you bringing in that element of growing your employees and your future employees as well?
Completely agree. I'm just looking through a lot of the comments that are coming in, and a lot of it, interestingly, is the other side of the kind of spectrum in terms of what the educators are, how they are perceiving manufacturing, and this whole engineering is dirty and oily and greasy, and you don't want to get your hands dirty and all that stuff. We all know that's wrong. We're all in the sector. We all know that's completely wrong.
But I think that's changing, Sam.
I do. Do you know what? Yeah,
I do. And I've got quite a few schools now who are coming to me and they're saying, we'd like to bring some manufacturers into the schools, but not necessarily to talk to the students, but actually to work with our design and technology teachers to make sure that what we're teaching them is going to be fit for purpose for the future. Or we want somebody to come in and talk about how their job relates to what the children are learning in their classroom. It's changing. I think the careers landscape is changing, and I think that's a real positive.
Really is. Why is that suddenly changing? Why are teachers, educators what has happened to make them realize that this is something they need to talk about and improve that perception?
It hasn't been sudden from my point of view. It's been going on for the past. If I was going to measure it, I would say that this change has been happening over the past 5 years. Angela, you share what you think's changed, and I'm then happy to share what I think's changed and what's happening.
I think there's a set routine for careers engagement in school, and I think careers leaders are starting to think, is this actually really bringing value to the school, to the students? And I think they're starting to look for other ways to do that. I think certainly, I don't know how much they know about the LSIPs that are going on around the country, whether that's part of it. But I certainly think that careers leaders are suddenly realising, well, we're offering a career fair, but we're struggling to get people in for the career fair. Basically, it's mainly colleges and unis that go to the careers fairs because businesses get very little value out of it. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, why I'm seeing that change, but I certainly am. And
I think there's been one specific change, and I think the introduction of the Gatsby benchmarks has been a massive turnaround within education. So for those who don't know about the Gatsby benchmark, there's 8 Gatsby benchmarks, and they are linked to careers provision within every secondary school. You can find them. I'll let everybody Google them, but there's 2 specific ones for me, which is linking careers to the education, to the curriculum. So when you're teaching maths, English, sciences, whatever it may be, you are linking what the curriculum is to the outside world. And what's then happened is the teachers within the schools and the careers leaders are very aware that they only have a certain amount of knowledge. And to enable them to bring these careers to life, they need the support of business. and to link this properly to the curriculum, to have, and it's one of the phrases they say, which is meaningful encounters, which is not just the careers fairs, it's businesses going in to do school assemblies. So they'll talk about their organisation and they'll talk about what they can do and what those careers are within that. That's linking careers to the curriculum. So for me, that's been the biggest turnaround. And also the admission that, look, teachers are there to teach. That's their skill set. They're there to teach a curriculum. They cannot keep up to date with manufacturing and innovation and engineering at the pace that we all experience, because they can't. So it's about using your skill set to the right way, and this is where businesses can come in and help. So Gatsby benchmarks for me are the biggest things.
No, completely agree. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that on Friday as well.
Yeah.
Go on, Adam. You wanted to jump something in?
Yeah. So two things with it. I was on a discussion with the FSB, I think it was last year. I think it was part of the LSIPs thing. We were talking. I'm picking up on what Ruth was saying. I brought up that the colleges, I think we were in Kidderminster College, I think it was. The colleges in and around any area across the UK, nationally, anywhere in the world, need to be working with government strategically to see what's happening within their local area around what is coming in. So if you take somebody like Stuart, that posts out all of the operations and things that are happening and all the builds and stuff like that from Jefferson, around what's being done and the investments ploughed in. So that's in a local area. That local area then has schools and colleges in and around that area. So they need to be aligned around that curriculum, around what is needed. So if there's like 2.5 billion being ploughed into a Ministry of Defence facility and there's going to be jobs and everything like that, that's going to take a little while to do. So the curriculum should be, and the educational system should be aligned strategically to that. Yes, you're going to get some of the students that want to move away or whatever, but there'll be a certain amount that want to stay in their local vicinity and have the opportunities. Now, the other question around this is around the change and what's happened. So how much, and I'm not saying there is, but how much of an influence does people like Elon Musk have in the younger generation? Because the younger generation follow him, like what he does, and he is an innovator. He is constantly pushing the boundaries of things. You take SpaceX, you take the pickup that they've just done, Tesla, and how much of that is also driving an interest over the past few years as well. So these influential people, the younger generation, have turned to Twitter, X. Massive leap in the younger generation in uptake onto that platform. And who's prominent on there? Elon. And he holds audio rooms and all manner of stuff in there. So I wonder how much of that has actually had an effect as well. That influence inside of bringing these the younger generation on, especially in this shorter period of time, this 5 years, because that's when he's been very, very prominent.
Going back a few years on one of the manufacturing TV sessions that we used to do during COVID and lockdown, we were discussing, so this was way before Elon Musk took over Twitter and all of that, saying that we need essentially a manufacturing hero in this country, that someone needs to be that influencer, that front of house manufacturing expert that all the kids just kind of look up to and want to kind of follow in their footsteps, because they're talking about manufacturing, because they're talking about special processes, because they're linking it to new technology and software and all of that sort of thing. And I still think that is important, and it would be great if there is someone that we can use and utilize for those reasons, that wants to push the UK manufacturing sector forward, and it would encourage a whole host of new people into the sector. It's that whole influencer thing, that whole big name attracting lots of people into an industry for a reason. I'm going to say it because it's all over the news. All of Taylor Swift's fans now love the NFL.
Yeah.
They've never gone near it before.
But it doesn't have to be somebody that famous. Have any of you seen the airport guy?
No.
Okay. Have a look at Google the airport guy from Heathrow. And he took responsibility for it's TikTok. Most of it's TikTok. Well, it's all YouTube now. And he takes his camera around and he shows everybody around what his job is as an engineer at Heathrow. And just go and have a look at him, because he's an unknown. Well, he's known now, but he was an unknown.
Yeah.
And there's an area, and the challenges, and this is what we'll obviously talk more about on Friday, is how you can find something that works for your business, because there's some really big stuff out there that big corporations are doing that as an SME you can't do. But there are things that you can adapt, as Angela says, to your strategy in your community that will work for you. And that's the thing. And I think it doesn't have to be Taylor or Elon.
Yeah. No.
I agree. And I think one of the problems is, and it would be great, to have somebody like that. But one of the problems is that it has to be somebody fairly young for the kids to be attracted to. And most young people are employed by a business, and it's how willing that business is to let them have their head and to let them go wild and, do what they need to do. You don't get many young self-employed people in manufacturing and engineering who would be able to go out and be an influencer full time for the industry. And why should any business let their employee pay their employee to be an influencer for the whole of manufacturing and engineering? Yes, they could be an influencer for that particular business, but how willing would that business be to let them spend that time doing that? So I think that's another problem. I've seen a few videos. We all know Chloe the welder, and she's put out some great videos, but she's limited because she's still got a job to do. So she's limited on how much time she's got to put that stuff out. And I know I've asked before, can I put this video on my Marvelous Manufacturing website? And I've had no response at all from the business. So it's really difficult, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, okay. No, it's not. It's not difficult at all. In my opinion, this is me. I'm joking. You know me, Angela. It's not difficult at all.
I do.
So Chloe, as you say there, she's the welder, the airport guy. They have no self-serving intent other than the fact they are doing a day-to-day journal of everything.
Yeah,
and that's what people buy into. You've got the big Elons and everything like that, which is great because they've got a massive following and it's showing the interest. Now it's about the lower levels nurturing that interest as a business in a local area. How do we nurture that? And that's how you get the likes of the welder and the machinist and things like that. Yes, you've got to be careful around whether you show a part or something like that, but there's other ways of doing it. And if you're just allowing the younger generation to experiment with 30 seconds or something, it doesn't have to be edited. It doesn't have to be, it just needs to be raw and done. So it's simple. It's uploaded. I mean, I've got a camera in front of me here that you can do 30 seconds, bang, switch it off, upload it, gone. Don't even have to do anything with it. So it's not, we're using excuses, in my opinion. It's not hard. We need to. I think taking your advice earlier, Angela, is breaking it down into those smaller steps that allow us to shift off.
For those of you listening along, because these people that we've discussed are great, and they're giving up their time. They are recording their day-to-day journal, and it's
because working. They love what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing.
So for those of you listening that know someone who fits this bracket, that they could be YouTube, they could be small, they could be on TikTok. Can you please drop it on the comments, and we'll try and build a bit of a kind of portfolio around some of these people so we can start to share it. And obviously, Angela, when you're going to schools and you're going to manufacturers, you can take this list of people to start to follow.
Yeah.
I know Colin Furs is another one who's big, and he does all sorts of wacky videos of his buildings that he's working on, his wild contraptions, and I know that's got quite a big following. And I know there's loads out there. Yes, they're not as big as Elon Musk. No, they're not celebrities, but they love what they do, and it does come across, and it is passionate, and people do follow it, and it does pick up a nice following. So yeah, if anyone's
leverage the influence of Elon Musk, leverage them to your advantage, and bring them in and do it that way. Leverage is a brilliant way of doing it.
And that, I think this, what we're talking about within the ConeX community, again, this is what we'll talk more about on Friday, is how we bring this all together as a community and work together, because there are some things that we can do by breaking it all down. But the power of the media and the power of a snippet of a story in anything, I mean, let's be honest, Spud Guy, we all know about Spud Guy in Tamworth now, I'm sure. Yes, who went viral with his blooming jacket potatoes in little old Tamworth, because that was it. They were just on it, and it was one little thing. It's finding the thing for our manufacturing community, and not for the whole of manufacturing, but just where you are within your little niche, whether it's your sector, your location, the discipline that you're looking to get into. It's finding that thing and the consistency and having a strategic plan.
Yep, couldn't agree more. I am wary of time. We've gone to about half an hour now, so I do have a couple of quick comments and quick questions before we finish.
Can I just before you start on the next question, Steve Murphy's just put something up, and for me it sums up. And he says, "Be the change you want to see in the world." It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Just drive it from a local point of view. Be the change you want to see in your local area, in your community, in your business.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Sam.
So I know, Angela, you were talking around. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't help. It's a very short amount of time that people need to put in to actually be able to actually make this change and make this difference. So next month, beginning of next month, I believe now, we are going to be doing a in-person event. We are going to be actually putting some of this that we're talking in action, and we are going to go to a local school. We're going to take some ConeX members, and we're going to put the manufacturers in front of this younger generation, and we're going to give them the opportunity to ask questions and talk around how things, how they work. And that isn't it's not a big thing from us to organise. It's not a big thing for manufacturers to come along for a couple of hours, put a bit of time in, and it will help massively.
And it's not just any school, Sam. It's a girls' school.
It's a girls' school, yes. Which, again, huge topic of conversation, which we're going to be following up later in the year as well, as women in engineering and why that's so important, how we can support that. So, final point before we go. I know we've talked a lot around this session around opportunities and what schools could be doing and what manufacturers could be doing, and influencers and all that sort of thing. One point from each of you: why, from a manufacturing point of view, from a manufacturing business, why is it so important that you have to engage with your local schools and colleges and this younger generation? What would you say the one takeaway is that these manufacturers need to start putting it into their plans? One or two things. Who's going to start?
Happy to start. So 1/2, you're part of a community. Surely this is what you want to be as a business. Surely we're manufacturing, but we're people orientated businesses. You have so much to give, to educate, and we've talked about, obviously it's our job to help educate these students, But my point, my actual point is, it's not just the students, it's the parents, it's the caregivers, it's the people in their communities. You are engaging with a wider community, but not just hiring your future generation and your future talent. There could be current talent in that community that hears about you.
Absolutely. Yeah, really good point there, Ruth. And that's, as you say, the community, engaging with the community, getting your business known amongst the community, really important. For me, I think I'm starting to see a bit of a shift in respect of apprenticeships. I know, for years and years now, we've had this constant push in schools that students will do sixth form and then university. But I am starting to see schools now who are actually starting to take more interest in apprenticeships and telling their students about apprenticeships. I actually went in last week to my local school to give a talk to year 8s about apprenticeships. So I think certainly for manufacturers, you take on apprentices. Why wouldn't you go into schools? Help the schools out. They want to tell the kids about apprenticeships now. They're starting to see the value of apprenticeships. You can go in there and give them the value of an engineering, manufacturing apprenticeship. We've said before, they don't know much about engineering and manufacturing. So if they're going to talk about apprenticeships, they're probably talking about admin roles, hairdresser roles, carpentry roles. So let's get in there and talk about manufacturing and engineering apprenticeships.
Completely agree. It's a good point. Adam, did you have one that you wanted to add? Why it's so important for manufacturers?
I suppose it bolts onto both Ruth and Angela here. I don't know whether most people know the why I do what I do across the businesses, but it is the success of our communities. Our communities come from the businesses that thrive within it. So the more businesses I can support getting that growth and that high value, the better both socially and economically we will be. Community, you are part of the community. So enable that community to thrive, enable that community to drive in the younger talent into your business and bring it on. And don't, the thing for me as well is don't get hung up. Even if you've brought people in under apprenticeship and you've trained them up and they've moved on to somewhere else, you've done a phenomenal job because you've trained that person. That person's become very, very talented, has moved on, and you are now going to bring another one in and nurture them. It's just a conveyor belt. It is a life. It's the journey. Don't get frustrated by it. Be very, very proud that you've made that person absolutely valuable to the industry that you're in.
And that's the thing. For me, it's maintaining and it's giving longevity to the industry. If we're not engaging with students and we're not engaging in schools, they're not going to know about the industry and they're not going to support it. And therefore, where is this manufacturing industry in 10, 20 years' time if we're not doing this? Yeah. And it's that long-term thinking for me. So I'm going to bring this one to an end. We've kind of gone double the time that we allocated, but that's okay. It's a good conversation. Remember, obviously, we've got upcoming events for ConeX members. So we will see those of you on Friday that are able to join. We'll put more details of the visit that we're doing towards the end of the month, beginning of next month. I'm going to pull a list of influencers out of the comments. Thank you, everyone, for commenting, because there has been an awful lot of comments going on there. So I'm going to go through and look through those in more detail. And if anyone who isn't part of ConeX wants to know a little bit more around what we're doing, then you know where I am. You can find me on LinkedIn. And very quickly, Ruth, Angela, Adam, obviously, thank you for joining. How can people, what's the best way to get in touch with you? I'm assuming because we've got this on LinkedIn, it's nice and easy to
LinkedIn
on there.
Yep. Connect with us on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. And we'll put all your website links and everything in the comments for this, so everyone can follow on. Brilliant. I've got nothing more to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the week.